Welcome, everyone, to the With Life Incubator Program Preview and Mentor Meetup. Great to see a few faces we recognize, a bunch of faces we don't, which is fantastic. My name is Jeff Sue. I'm on the In Rhythm team. With Life is a joint program of the Capital Institute and In Rhythm, and we're going to be talking about our incubator program. So thank you all for showing up today, taking this time with us. If you have some time, please put in the chat where you're calling in from, maybe what industry or what business you're representing, or anything else that inspires you about why you're here today. And I'm going to pass it over to Alex, who's going to be leading us through today's program.
Thank you, Jeff. Really good to see so many familiar and so many new faces. I'm really excited about that. It's always wonderful and exciting to meet new people in the space. I am based in Minneapolis, Minnesota, and I'm a team member here at In Rhythm. I've been with the team for about 5 years, so I've worn a lot of hats, but right now, mainly I focus between our operations and our products and our program. So I get to spend a lot of time with folks who join the incubator program. And in today's leadership program, which Jeff was actually leading, it was our last day and we were doing some presentations and we were talking about how we found In Rhythm. And I thought I would just start by sharing a little bit about my journey and how I found In Rhythm, because I thought it might be relevant to some of you who are joining us here today. So I came to this work after spending many years working in nonprofits and startups across lots of different industries, primarily cause-based organizations, from regenerative agriculture to internet governance, but also in the restaurant and finance industries. And I discovered that so many of these organizations in the cause-based space were just trying to do great things for the planet or communities, but in that process, really extracting from the people within their organizations. And that was really disheartening to me. So I kind of went on this quest to find a different approach. And that's what ultimately led me to In Rhythm. All roads seem to point to Trey, who is our founder at In Rhythm. And we spoke and the stars aligned, and that's when I came on board. And I'm really excited about the incubator program because it gives us the opportunity to support teams in a really meaningful way. We've had 9 organizations go through our inaugural cohort over the past 6 months, and will continue over the next couple of months. And it's been such a pleasure to get to know them and the wonderful work they're doing. So we'll share more about this program today. Our intention is to, give an overview of the program. You'll have the chance to meet the mentors and some of the supporting team behind the program. We'll have lots of time for question and answers. So if there are questions that come up in the chat, I'll ask that we hold them till the end and address them, unless Jeff feels like there's one that we should really just call out immediately. So Jeff, you feel free to interrupt at any time. And then we'll share a little bit about the application details and how to apply. And so, my slides are frozen. There we go. So as Jeff was saying at the beginning of the call, With Life is an approach that holds the patterns of life and living systems at its foundation. Unlike the extraction and separation perpetuated by mechanistic system, With Life is really empowering us to reconnect, regenerate, and heal by designing, managing, and monitoring in alignment with the patterns of living systems. And the incubator is a program of With Life, and the programming of With Life is really all about building the capacity of people and organizations with this With Life approach. And we'll share a little bit about that approach today, and what makes this incubator program no ordinary incubator program. And when I say that, I mean to say that because our intention through the With Life Incubator is to really ground you and your team in a fundamentally different approach to designing, managing, and monitoring our organizations, and one that is rooted in viewing them as living systems. And that means we're going to need to go slow to go fast. We're going to need to shift our mindsets, our behaviors, and our practices so that we can really build our capacity as organizations, as leaders of organizations, as team members in organizations to do things very differently. And so a little bit of background on the dominant model, the current state of organizations today, which is really part of why we created this incubator. And the dominant model for our organizations of today is really the machine. And when I say organizations, I mean organizations of all kinds, like businesses, nonprofits, startups, multinational agencies, and whatnot. I say organizations really with a broad meaning. And the dominant model really is the machine. All you need to do is a quick Google search and you'll see all kinds of things that come up around how to run your business like a well-oiled machine, with all of the different departments being cogs in that machine. It shows up in in our language, and what we say on a day-to-day basis. How many of you have used one of these sayings, working like a well-oiled machine, or I don't have bandwidth for that. We've got to dial that in or move the needle. And so this just shows how the machine metaphor and paradigm shows up in our work. It shows up in our language, and it's really had a huge influence in how we manage our organizations. So much so that really organizations globally are not working very well. Most people are either loud quitting, quiet quitting. 60% of people completely disengaged at work, and very few, only 23%, are thriving. And this is from Gallup. They're an organization that studies workplace engagement globally, and they've estimated that this results in an $8.8 trillion loss in global productivity every year, and that's 9% of global GDP. That's a huge lost potential. So our approach to managing, designing, and leading our organizations as machines just quite frankly isn't working for people. It's not working for those organizations. And in some of our other materials in our introductory webinars, we talk a lot about the impact on equity and on the planet. And there's really just evidence across the board of the state of our organizations really not serving us. And so that's why what's different about this incubator and why this is no ordinary incubator is because we're not just looking to incubate organizations in the business as usual mechanistic way. We're actually looking to incubate regenerative organizations. And when I say regenerative organization, our definition for that, our evolving definition for that is a thriving living system where resilience and transformational change are emergent outcomes of an organization's underlying health and equity. And in order to incubate regenerative organizations, it requires a very different design and management approach. So just to kind of contrast, this is a contrast that we'll bring up a lot throughout the incubator program. But when you start with a machine design, what you're doing is ultimately engineering a set of best practices. And when I say best practices, I mean, hey, what that meeting structure that works over there, that'll work over here because all organizations are the same. But ultimately, that enforces a set of prescriptive structures, and that degenerates the health of the machine over time. All machines' health degenerates over time. Just think of a car. Whereas in the incubator program, we're taking living systems and we're looking to them as a model and to understand the patterns behind living systems, which ultimately facilitates the use of flexible frameworks, principles, and tools that leads to the regeneration of health of that organization over time. And with the machine design, this actually requires more energy, more external inputs. Again, think of the car example or industrial agriculture, always requiring more inputs in order to make it work. Whereas in a living system, that ultimately requires less energy and has the ability to self-maintain and self-regenerate. And all of this requires pretty substantial shifts in our perspectives in our operations. And that's why we have created this incubator program, and really a lot of the capacity building programs that we offer through With Life and Rhythm and Capital Institute really all are designed to shift our perspective and operations towards this living approach. And there's something kind of almost intuitive about it because, our human bodies, we're living. Why would not our organizations also be living? And why do we manage and design them like machines when really they're not? So creating organizations with life, creating organizations with a living approach means looking to the patterns of looking to living systems to inform a set of patterns which we can observe and recognize. And I won't go into these in a lot of detail, but this is just to show that these are part of the underpinning of the design of the program and the tools and frameworks that they inform the tools and frameworks that we're going to be using with you as you design and manage your organizations as living entities. And then these patterns ultimately inform design and operation principles that are unique to each organization or each system that we're designing to. These are design and operation principles that InRhythm has designed for ourselves, we use with some clients, or we also work with clients to design their own regenerative design and operation principles. There's also regenerative design and operation principles for an economy. Many of you are familiar with the Capital Institute 8 Principles for a Regenerative Economy. This is what we use to design our economies with life. So that was a lot of information, but that's just to give you a little bit of a background and some of the foundational approaches and frameworks that we're going to be using throughout the incubator program, and really why we created it. And so now I'll get into a little bit of the program overview and details. Unless there's anything important to address in the chat before we dive into this. It looks like lots of wonderful introductions. Awesome. Okay, I'll continue with the overview then. So the incubator program, what's it all about? Really, it's overarching. Before I get into the details, its overarching purpose is to provide teams everything they need to either start a new organization or reimagine an existing one in a way that is really aligned with life. And it's a program that's available entirely online, although there is the option to attend an in-person event. The next cohort, the second cohort, will begin on July 8th with pre-work for the established entities track starting May 20th. So you'll notice there are two tracks. There is a track for startups, which is all about growing your startup from ideation into a thriving organization. And typically we see about 1 to 3 team members participating from startups. And then an established entities track, which is really, hey, I'm an established organization and I want to do something to transition my team, transition my organization towards a regenerative approach. And we typically see 3 to 5 team members from established entities. It's a 6-month program, and the investment details you can find here. In terms of some of the key elements, one of the key things, well, first of all, the incubator program is really designed to offer support in all of the functional and strategic areas of your organization, whether that's business models, operating structures, entity choice, legal structures, human resources, all the things that you need in order to get that organization off the ground or align your established entity in all of those functional areas with a living approach. And we do that through one-on-one mentorship. You'll have the chance to meet some of the mentors from the team in a moment. And we do that through design studios, which are really workshops in a peer-to-peer environment where you and your team will work with your mentors, with your peers on key aspects of your organization or initiative. There's capacity building available through online courses and workshops, including In Rhythm's Design Lab, leadership program, as well as Capital Institute's Introduction to Regenerative Economics and Finance courses. Maybe John, you could speak to maybe when you do your intro in a moment. And then there's the optional in-person intensive. We added this in-person intensive because we noticed there was a need for real kind of intensive design and challenge solving time with the current incubator cohort. And so we're excited to be offering that this time around. And then lastly, there's the organizational health assessment, which is really a comprehensive baseline health assessment that will provide an evaluation, a holistic evaluation of your organization's health and regenerative capacity. So those are some of the key elements of the program that you'll be able to enjoy as a part of it. I also wanted to share a sample schedule of, AI is asking me if I want AI companion for Zoom. No, thank you. Zoom was asking me a question about AI. Not right now, thank you, Zoom. So this is just a sample schedule and what, to give you a picture. We get a lot of questions about what would my time in the incubator look like? What's that flow? What's the time commitment? And so we did want to share just a sample schedule of what that might look like. So there's an orientation and onboarding period where you work with your mentors and your peers to really understand your organization's unique context, get clear on kind of your journey in the incubator program. Everybody goes through that to start. The established organizations start with a health assessment, whereas startups will do one later on. Everyone joins a design lab where really you're working to refine your whole organizational framework. There's some leadership program, leadership capacity building development. There's that in-person intensive, and then design studios where you workshop key challenges and structures and work and elements of your organizational design with your mentor and peers. And then lastly, kind of closing and pitches, really closing out your time in the program. Option and recommended to participate in the Capital Institute courses. They do take place at the same time. strongly recommended to participate in those. And typically we see a time commitment of, I would say, 5 or 6 hours a week, depending on programmatically what's going on. One other thing that's not pictured here is there are additional meetings with your mentor and peer groups on an ongoing basis. But really think of the incubator as a journey. We know each of your organizations are unique, and so the journey may look slightly unique for each of you depending on your current needs, especially for the startups who are just on all kinds of different timelines. And so encourage you to have that mindset as you're looking at this. And then I'll close out with just a little bit of details on how to apply before we go into meeting the mentors. So we're seeking up to 20 organizations to join our second cohort. The application deadline is on April 19th. We can drop a link in the chat, but the details on and where to apply are on the website. We'll notify everyone by May 6th. The pre-work for established entities begins May 20th, and then the second cohort officially begins on July 8th. Okay, that was a lot of information. I'll pause and hand it back to Jeff for us to shift into meeting the mentors and then have the opportunity to ask some questions.
Great, thank you so much, Alex. And there was a question about whether these slides are available. Yes, please, if you are interested in receiving the slides, you send us an email to info@enrhythm.co. We can get those slides to you. And if you participate in the program, you will get a copy of those slides and a lot more with this information. So wanted to give a chance for the whole team that's here to introduce themselves and talk a little bit about our backgrounds and what excites us about the incubator. And just to remind you all, if those participating in the incubator, you are assigned a mentor, but it's really this whole team that's available to you as a resource. Your mentor, what we're calling mentor, is really just for your first point of contact to orient you to the needs that for your needs to be met within all the resources in the team. So why don't I start with Tanya?
Hi, everybody. My name's Tanya. My background is, well, I'm part of the InRhythm team, and I'm organizational design consultant. I work a lot with our client side, so our demonstration side of our work. My background is in law and hospitality, and I would say the thing that really brings me energy is relationships. I'm always really excited for the opportunity to really get to know someone and understand their business and come alongside them and help them, reach their goals. I am excited about the incubator because I think it really gives us a way to reach more folks with our regenerative framework, and to get more people thinking in this way and running their businesses in this way.
Great. Thank you, Tanya. Let's go to Francisca.
Thanks, Jeff. Hi, everyone. My name is Francisca Pretorius, or Fran for short, whatever you prefer. I'm also an organizational design consultant here at NRhythm. I'm South African, based in Massachusetts, and I also started my career as a lawyer, so it sounds very much like Tanya at the moment. Tanya and I actually work together. So I started practicing law and corporate law firm, corporate and commercial law in South Africa. I served startups, small to medium enterprises, and multinationals. And then I moved to the States and I studied an MBA in global social and sustainable enterprise. After that, I worked a little as a policy advisor on clean energy policy, and then went back to practicing law. That's where I worked with Tanya, and we focused on social enterprises and cooperatives. And before joining InRhythm, I was practicing international law at the Commonwealth Secretariat. I've also been teaching law and business throughout my career in South Africa, Kenya, the UK, and USA. And with this incubator program, I'm really excited, same as Tanya, to make our regenerative framework tools and support available to a large group of organizations. And I'm really excited to support organizations and facilitate and see and learn from peer-to-peer exchanges, which I find the most exciting part of our incubator, is where you not only learn from us as mentors, but that you really get to learn from incredible organizations in the regenerative space. which I think makes this incubator a very special program. Yeah, and I think I can bring a different kind of viewpoint as I've been lucky to work in many different parts of the world. Thanks, Jeff.
Thank you, Francisco. Let's go to Trey.
Hello, everyone. Absolutely incredible pleasure to be here with you as you're seeking to understand how this might be applicable to your context. I've just had the pleasure of working with organizations all over the world that were looking to reimagine how they would show up in their communities, in the markets that they serve. And ultimately, my background is in supporting the growth and the emergence of those kinds of organizations. And had the opportunity to work with small all the way to large organizations that are in different geographies across the world. And most excited about how to take this idea of regeneration and living systems and operationalize it. So from the project manager to the COO to the person sitting in the shipping part of the business to the finance to accounting, that everyone would see that regeneration isn't just applicable to a product or to agriculture or medicine, that it's applicable to how they think and make decisions in their organization. And that's what I'm most excited about, for helping everyone imagine themselves regenerating the energy and the health of themselves and their teams in ways to create more potential. So I'm excited about being a resource and a mentor to those who decide this is an important part of what they want to do right now. And I'm looking forward to getting to know those who want to participate. So thank you.
Thank you, Trey. Now let's go to John.
Yeah, thanks, Jeff. Hi, everyone. It's really great to be here. I'm John Fullerton, and it's wonderful to see so many familiar faces, CI course alum and some old friends. Jesse, I see you there. I don't know if you guys have scrolled down, but I also see that there are 2 horses here with us today, which is kind of interesting. So the horses are welcome as well. My passion, for those who don't know you, I spent nearly 20 years at what I always call the old JP Morgan before leaving in 2001 and experienced 9/11, and then kind of realized that the world was about to change in ways that none of us bankers could even imagine. And I learned about limits to growth, and now the idea of degrowth has become kind of fashionable. But I've been thinking about how this economic system that has created all this prosperity, but also all of these challenges, could possibly transform into something that was genuinely sustainable rather than just using the word sustainable. And so that's become my life work, and the Capital Institute courses are my contribution to that. But the reason why the incubator is so important, and why I'm so excited to be partnered with InRhythm to do this, is that I know that at the end of our courses, people are, stuck with this challenge of, okay, how do I put this into practice in the real world? And there's no question that the right way to put this regenerative paradigm into practice is to work in your own context, the context of your own organization, your own work environment. And so the incubator is designed to bring your context into this really, I think, challenge to civilization of how we transform into alignment with how life works. And so I think it's really important. I'm delighted that it's a part of our joint offering. And honestly, I've been so impressed with the InRhythm team. I don't know any other group, consultant or otherwise, that actually has shown how to put this into practice inside organizations. And I joke with Trey and the team. I actually don't like operationalizing stuff. I enjoy being out at the big 30,000 foot level. So my weakness is InRhythm's strength. and it's great to be partnered together.
Thank you, John. Alex, anything you'd like to add in this context?
I think a lot of what people mentioned about why they're excited about the program, I would just echo that and then add one of the things that I love about the program is that it's there's organizations that join from all kinds of industries, and there's really and Trey and our team speak a lot to this of just the silos that we tend to operate in day-to-day life as organizations. And what's cool about the incubator is it breaks those down. We have people from education, the service industry, what else? Agriculture. I'm drawing a blank now, but lots of different industries. And we're hopeful for the second cohort to also bring together many different industries to learn from one another. And there's been all kinds of cool collaborations that are already emerging with the existing cohort. So yeah, just I think breaking down silos and excited about the cool partnerships that emerge that you never could really imagine through the process.
Great. Thank you, Alex. And I'll introduce myself. My name is Jeff Sue. I am also located in Amherst, Massachusetts. My background originally as an ecologist and as an academic, and I left academia many years ago. And at the time, didn't realize it, didn't have the words at the time, but definitely recognize now that I was sort of bumping up against the limitations of a traditional mechanistic scientific way of viewing the world. Was lucky enough to find myself in executive positions running different types of impact organizations after that, focused on conservation, environmental justice, social justice, as well as a lot of cross collaborative networks. Have a lot of experience then in the nonprofit sector, the philanthropy sector, fundraising, and really excited by the incubator. I think it's actually probably one of the most complete packagings of what we offer, and actually in some ways some of the most accessible way to quickly orient to the educational aspects, the foundational ideas, the thought leadership that is at Capital Institute and in Rhythm, and then immediately apply it to your context and be applying it to your context in a way that I think and then have a lot of peer-to-peer support as well as support from us while you're doing that. And so we're really excited by launching this next cohort with you all.